Jump Scare. I'm Betty B. Dudley.
And I'm Shad.
This is a
Horror on the road.
edition, Campers edition, because we are literally on the way back home from the Overlook Film Festival. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you gotta get knowing so you're ready for next year's festival. We had the pleasure of viewing many films, and opening night started out with a bang. Cuckoo.
That's what I just said.
You did say Cuckoo. Cuckoo. Wow. I think that's the film that got a Four Knives from us. A Four Knives jump scare version of our rating, and film festival rating a 5. I really enjoyed that film. Now, let's talk about it. We did a little snippet review. You know what dawned on me after the film? That we're in Germany. And I have to say, I don't want to, are we going to do spoilers? I don't know. We're just experiencing horror on the road as I think we're in Alabama now, maybe. And I don't know. When I saw the film after the fact, like when I was watching it, it didn't dawn immediately on me. Maybe I'm just the only person in the audience where it was like, this is obvious. But after the film, I was like, okay, we're in Germany. Dan Stevens, German. He's a scientist. So, does anyone know where I'm going with that? Do you know where I'm going with that?
I think I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. So, obviously during Z times, the Germans had a lot of crazy scientists in that time frame. And they did a lot of experiments on people. And this film takes that into modern times.
Yep.
No correlation to that whatsoever. Obviously, Dan Stevens in the film is his normal age, whatever he is. We're going to say he's 35 to 45 years old. But he is German and he is a scientist. And, I call this like peak. Like you're just peeking through a moment in time. So we're not really getting info of what occurred before, a why this is happening, how it happened, what was the whole end, like what was the reason. Really never got a reason.
Yeah, it was just one of those, he's doing this because of reasons, but weren't real sure what the reasons he was involved in everything here.
Yeah, besides the fact that he's a scientist, so I guess he just wanted to know, like, hey, if I do this and this, what's going to come out of that? And I'm going to document every single little thing. It scared me. It gave me It Follows. So It Follows vibes. Only because of the use of light, sound. The film, it visually is fantastic. The editing, great.
So the creepy parts where she's on the bike just riding, and you start to slowly realize that she's looking down at the shadows, that there's a shadow of someone chasing her on the bike, and they're not on another bike, they're just on foot running up behind her.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's fucking horrifying. I was horrified. Gave me the willies big time. And, Hunter Sharif, fantastic job. Everyone, all the actors did what they needed to do. They came to work and they came to, play these characters, and they played them very well. Applause to everyone. Do you have anything else you want to share about Cuckoo? It's hard not to really get into it. But we're going to be adding whatever dates these films are projected to come out, when, where, who, in our details. So you can have all that info at your fingertips. But definitely this is not one to miss. Like I said, It it has a mad scientist. We'll call this like mad scientist vibes.
Yeah, this is definitely science gone. Well, it went right, but it went wrong at the same time. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Now, you know, that was day one. And day two, we saw two films. Now, I have to say that as I saw that Nick Kroll was going to be in a movie, I was like, I don't know what we have to do, but we have to see this movie. We were supposed to watch it on Thursday, but when we arrived, the arrival was too crazy and it was cutting too close to time, so we weren't able to catch it. But we worked our Friday schedule, and we were able to make it to see I Don't Understand You.
Which I went into that one not having any knowledge about what it was at all. Same thing with Cuckoo, really. And that's kind of best to go into both of those because I Don't Understand You starts off, it could just be your standard romantic comedy of errors kind of thing, but then it takes a turn into the like serious black comedy Hunter and Dale or Tucker and Dale versus Evil vibes, and it's one of those ones where you see what's happening from both sides and you can see who's wrong every time, but as it goes on they just keep making things worse and worse until there's no coming back from some of this.
Yeah, I would say this is a black comedy for sure with some horrific elements. I would put this together with like Shallow Grave and like Very Bad Things.
Yeah.
But heartfelt. I got teary eyed. You have these two men that are trying to adopt a child, and before they are like waiting to see to have their interview with an expected mother, they decide to take a trip to Italy. And it's one of those I'm going on a trip out of the country horror films, travel horror, where some shit could go awry, and it does, but not in the way that you expect. And that's the beauty of the film. I really enjoy that film. Another Four Knives, or a 5 camper rating. It's very funny. I mean, Nick Kroll does a fantastic job, and I have to say that it got a little. Would you say it got a little gory?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit gory. His counterpart. I'm gonna have to look that up, guys, right now because I want to give him some shout outs so you guys know who was in this film. I think it's like Andrew Ravenels. I'm really terrible if you've ever.
Also, we're on the road, so the internet is terrible.
Oh yes, it is Andrew Renales. Chad can't help me, but that's what we're gonna go with. Super funny. From A Simple Favor. The Prom, Bachelorette. He's been in a ton of stuff, and he was a great counterpart to Nick Kroll.
Yeah.
They really played off, that kind of like Nick Kroll humor. If you know, right? That's one of those things. And then the second movie we saw.
Third movie.
Oh, the third movie. I lost count. And A Violent Nature. This was the one everyone wanted to see. I mean, everyone wants to see all of them, but this is the one that people out there have been they've seen the poster, they've seen the teaser trailer. It is the it film, of the year.
For slasher movies.
For slasher films. Of course, obviously. This is what we're here for. We're here to talk about horror movies. We're not here to talk about Oppenheimer and Oscar award-winning movies. But you gotta stay in the right two lanes.
Yeah.
So Thoughts?
It was very different than what I thought it was going to be because I wasn't expecting it to be ASMR horror. Um, it was, one of the things you can kind of count on with most of the slashers throughout the 80s is they all had their own very distinctive theme. Obviously, the Halloween theme is iconic. The Friday the 13th theme. The
Yeah, they all have
Nightmare on Elm
music.
Street. Yeah, they all have their music. There's no music for this. There's no score. There's nothing except the sound of his feet walking through the woods.
I think there might be 2 songs, but yes, there's not a.
Well, the actual score of the movie. Songs are played like in the background on the radio and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I'm talking about
soundtrack and score. Well, because they would have a normal movie would have the score, which is just all the instrumental stuff, and then you would have the soundtrack, which have all the other like stuff, right?
Yes, I know that.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
But that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yes. Yeah. It doesn't have a distinctive thing. The ASMR crunching, shoe crunching. Can we rename the movie Crunchy Shoes?
Yeah.
We're gonna name it Crunchy Shoes.
In a Violent Walk.
In a Violent Walk. Yes, because he was violently killing the leaves.
Yeah, he did a lot of leaf killing.
All the branches, all that stuff were just getting murdered by him. Kills, chef's kiss. I know we talked to some goers, some other campers, and they had their different views on the kills. They thought some were blasé, that others were good. I enjoyed all the kills, and I'm not a gore girl, but I did enjoy the kills. One in particular, I'm gonna just say one word, and then we're gonna just move on. Yoga. That's it. Never seen anything like that before. And practical effects. This is a fantastic example of a film that uses practical and they wouldn't say CGI, but computer effects.
Yeah, and they brought up a good point on one of them that they don't really use a lot of. They just filmed the actor's eyes moving around and then composited that onto the head of the dummy on one of them. And like when it's just laid on the background, and you just see the eyes. It still looks realistic because you're seeing real eyes, and even though it's a dummy head, you still buy it as a real body.
Yes. Yeah, I would have never thought that was the thing. And you don't really, it's one of those, like, you don't realize it at all.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, it's computerized, at all. You said what I thought, you said I did? Computerized.
Ah, I got you.
Nerd alert. Yeah, the kills were amazing. Did you have a favorite kill? I guess you can't get too much into the kills. I guess maybe
that's one.
The one word earlier would be the one that would take the thing. And then they had I would say one of those kills was pretty classic. The tree. We want to call it the lumberjack kill. There's a tree involved.
Yeah, there's a lumberjack device involved.
Yeah, the mask, fantastic. Like old timey, like firefighters. Mask.
Yeah.
And super creepy. Oh, there's a train. There's a train. When you're on the road, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's gonna pop out at you. Make it more of a horror journey. I give this film 2 knives.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 2.5. Kills are interesting. It has some interesting ideas, but my biggest problem with it is there's so much of him just walking around, and so much repetition, and just things repeated for a very long time that don't need to be repeated.
That seemed to be the common theme with some of these films, the repetition of things. And some of the films, it was like, okay, I get it. It was, I wouldn't say needed, but part of the story. I wouldn't say this is part of the story. Chris Nash, they did a Q&A after, and him and his company, the people, producers and whatnot that were with him, they talked about the film, and they said that there's like 5 hours of this man walking, of the killer walking. It's a long time. It's a long time of walking. And then the editing I thought was poor. There's a lot of jump cuts. Like you could notice that it's not the same walk because it's different areas, and they didn't really want to say like video gamey, but it had like a video game feel. If they would have cut down, I mean, feature, you only need to be like 90 minutes for a feature. We don't really need to go further, like past that, especially if there's no character development. Obviously, that's the whole point of this film. This film is through the eyes of the killer, it's all from the killer's point of view, which is great. And that's what was going to be refreshing about the film. Yeah, stay in the left 2 lanes. Um, that's what refreshing about this film, that it was going to be from the killer's point of view. That's what all the excitement is about. But if you have a killer, it's like if you see Michael Myers walking around like Haddonfield for like 2+ hours, and then every 20 minutes he just randomly kills somebody. It might put you to sleep, especially to have that heavy ASMR. It's ASMR horror. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be like the new thing. Like for the next couple of years, it's going to be like, yeah, ASMR horror, where you just hear like the things and you barely experience anything. That might be the thing. But that's why we get the rating. We may or may not just totally lose it because we're in a tunnel. So yes. Now the next day, what day are we in? The next day. We saw a film called Bird Eater, and I don't think Shad's really ready to discuss that. We unfortunately were not able to finish the film, so we are going to skip over that. I had to be part of a Q&A thing, so we had to depart early from that one. So we'll have to catch it another time. But we're going to move on to Things Will Be Different is our next film. And Things Will Be Different is more fantasy, sci-fi.
Yeah, there's some time travel elements involved in it, but it's not deep into time travel, something like Back to the Future or in that nature. It's more of there's really only one, or I guess 2 trips you see to the past, or to wherever it is. It's not exactly clear where they go. Do they go into the past? Do they go into the future? We don't know for sure. They just go someplace different than our time.
Yes. So quick synopsis: brother and sister who are robbers escape and hide out in a different time period than their own.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to pinpoint because the point of travel is in a house. So you're not going to leave the house. This is a one setting kind of film where the actors are not in that many locations. But everything is happening within this home, and you're not going to be able to be like, oh, it's X year, and that's really not the point of the movie. They just remove themselves from their time into another time, and they hide out there for 2 weeks when it's safe to go back.
Yeah, and they're assuming that after a couple of weeks, the police will have stopped looking for them, and then they can go back into their time, and it's all good. They'll have gotten away with this $700,000 that they have, and it'll all be set.
I do have to say that even though this film I wouldn't put it in the horror genre per se, and I don't really like to categorize films. It's kind of difficult when you have different elements, but I have to say that there were some creepy things that occurred.
Yeah.
And that's what gets you, like those creepy things. And then also you're out of your own time, and you know that, and you know the characters are, and there's a lot of character development. I am a character development girl, and there is plenty of that. So I do feel for these characters. I do care about them, and the outcome, you got to see the film. You gotta see the film and there's not really like a release date for that. But I give this film, I would say 3 knives.
I liked it a little more than you did. It's a 4 knifer for me. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Now, our next film is. They were international films in this. I Don't Understand You was one. Cuckoo was another, and
Technically, A Violent Nature is too. It's Canadian.
Oh, A Violent Nature, yes, A Violent Nature, and All You Need Is Death.
Ah, yes.
Whoa, fantastic! Paul Duane's film. He was there in attendance. Fantastic gentleman, and he has created this film, which is riddled in Irish folklore, heavily on the music component of that. Does it beautifully. I didn't know where this movie was going to take me. I knew those were the elements. You know, you have a couple that are out buying music. They're buying
they want to buy
songs.
a classic song, the old time songs. They're going to sell them to collectors who want to have the only copy of this song.
Yeah, it's one. Yes, exactly. Like those people are out there, right? They're going to be the only person that has heard or owns this because it's super rare, and you see that a little bit at the beginning of the film, transaction of sorts. When it comes to Irish horror, I know it's gonna be fucking scary. Like a lot of it is so deeply rooted within like folklore that I love it. I love when there's tradition, when there's that kind of those are the roots of it. Because it's stuff you've heard in stories. It's stuff that's part of their culture, and he took this and it created this whole world. And I have to say, like, you have not seen anything like this.
No, it's very cool and very unique.
Yeah, and
you're not going to figure out where this is going.
Fucking creepy. I mean, there are some very horrifying elements to this, and we don't want to get too much into it because we don't want to give it away. But needless to say, they found a song, and
they wish they hadn't.
They wish they hadn't found the song, and the song gets them in a way. Yeah, I was about to say something about the song, but the song has more than what they expect. Yeah. They get a little gift, a nightmarish gift. But I give this one 4 knives.
Yeah, me too. This is another great one.
4 knives. The last film, and now I'm gonna start crying. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm gonna start tearing up, and it's gonna be a lot for me to discuss. We have different views on this, and that's fine on our experience. Mine is more nostalgia, and the program director had come out, and he asked the audience, do we have fans of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I was like, that's wow, because I'm a huge fan of that show. Like, love it. I watch it. I could tell you within the last 2 weeks, I've seen at least like 6 episodes. Okay. That's like the last 2 weeks. I'm introducing my daughter into light horror. And she's not fazed. She doesn't care about it at all. She's like, this is not scary. Which, when I was older than her, I thought there were some creepy elements. But, you're in our household, so I guess she's kind of like desensitized.
Yeah.
But we get. I saw the TV glow, and this is a second film for this writer director, and you guys may or may not be well versed, but we're all going to the World's Fair last year, which we did not see. My sister and her boyfriend viewed that film, and they told me do not watch that movie. They loved it, but my sister didn't think I'd be able to handle it. emotionally. And I already knew going into this movie it was gonna be fucking sad. Like I already knew it was gonna be sad. So as the movie ends and I have tears in my eyes and I'm like please don't put the lights on because everyone's gonna see me crying. Like I'm gonna be the only moron in here fucking crying. I may or may not have been, but I left the movie theater crying. I was crying maybe like 2 hours ago before we started this, because we were talking about the movie. I have to say, the movie is about two kids. This movie set. It starts in the '90s. Um, early works its way up to like early '90s, mid '90s until the 2000s, and it's about these two kids that come together. They share a love for a TV show called
The Pinko
the
Pig.
Pinko Pig, the Pinko Pig, and the Pinko Pig is very. It's that kid show that you would find like hokey, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, ish, and even you pointed out like when they're introducing the show and they're like they're saying like the cast, it has like the Buffy like letters,
With the same kind of font they use for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
The director said that it was a mix between, I don't know if I said that earlier, Buffy meets Are You Afraid of the Dark. Spot on with that comparison. Like that was perfect.
Right.
But it was very sad, and it deals a lot with mental health, and it's one of those films, like, it's very ambiguous. A lot of people are gonna be annoyed because there's no concrete answer. You're just gonna have to just fill in the blanks for yourself of what actually happened. I took away that none of it happened, and it was all in their minds, and it was the way of coping with their depression, which leads into their older life. And it's very 90s. I mean, I was like, this person lived during this time frame. This is not something like, oh, I think that this is what people wore, or I think this is how people talked. Like, it was definitely, like I said, like a peek horror, like a window. I'm just peeking in for a moment in time, and you get that in this film, and it kind of takes you along for the ride. Thoughts yet?
Well, obviously I was alive during this time period, but I was already past the Are You Afraid of the Dark age group and that kind of thing. But I don't know, it's very ambiguous about what's going on with it, and I don't need every single thing explained, but it would have been nice if there was one thing that was explained about it. Like, just tell me this part was happening, this part was real, this part wasn't real, just something. But it's so open to interpretation of so many different things that in the end, I don't know what to think about it. It's just, it's a lot of crazy imagery that doesn't, it's never really explained. So, is it all in his head? Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows?
Justin Smith is the lead in the film.
Justice
Smith. I'm sorry. What did I say? Justin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Justice Smith, lead in the film, and he does an excellent job of. You just feel it. You
it's
feel
a great
it.
performance.
It's a great performance. I was gonna say the way that he's able to, who he is as a person doesn't break, like stays true from him being, there's another actor that plays him when he's in ninth grade. But when he gets to
he goes from seventh to ninth.
Seventh grade. Seventh to ninth grade is another actor, and then ninth on is Justice Smith. And that same person, like who he is, that's he carries that into him, you know, in his older years. So he doesn't really change in that regard, of how like timid and like soft spoken and like he's so insecure and all that. Um, and you really feel for him. I feel like you can't not feel for him because he wasn't a bad person. You know, he was a good kid. He was a good person. I think that with everything that he experienced in his life, it just caught up to him and he had a fucking mental breakdown. His depression overtook him, and those are the breaks of in reality that we see. All the craziness that we see that he encounters, um, that are just like out of the realm of like reality, you know, that's in his mind. Like, and I, when you see the film, you'll be able to say like, well, was it? Did he? Is it? What's going on? You know, is that what's really going on, or is he? Did he just lose it? He's just insane. I think he had a mental break. That's what I take away because that's the only thing that explains the break in reality.
Yeah.
Because it's so far fetched and like never would happen. Like that's not gonna happen. You know, it's only gonna happen if it was real. But there's nothing concrete to tie it to solidify. It's gonna be. It's Inception with the freaking thing, the topper. You know, did it keep spinning or did it stop? You know, did it teeter? It's one of those.
Did it teeter? Did it totter?
Did it teeter? Did it totter? I give it 3 knives. I can't give it 4 knives because I'm not about the ambiguous aspect of it. Also, it made me cry a lot, so I'm gonna take a knife away from that, because it made me cry. I don't think I'm gonna go in and see a horror film, you know, something that's categorized as that, and fantasy. I would say fantasy horror, and then I'm gonna like end up bawling like a baby.
Yeah.
You know, which is why I may never see another film by this person again. It's up there with like Ari Aster. It's like accolades. I give you all the claps. Okay, applause. You're fantastic. It's a fresh look. I'd rather watch, you know, those people's films than a remake or something that's been re-envisioned. But I mentally and like emotionally cannot handle it. More so emotionally, I just can't. It's gonna break me, and I really don't want that. I'm not into that subgenre of horror. Like, my sister says I'm more of a slasher girl. I don't know if I disagree with that, but maybe that's what it is. But that concludes our review on these films, and a lot of them are not going to be coming out anytime soon. Or maybe like summertime. Some of them are TBD, but we'll definitely, you know, put if there are any release dates and where these films would be coming out, on our channel.
When it gets closer to time that they'll come out, we'll do a more detailed review. We just want to drop a couple of thoughts now while we were coming home.
Yeah, we'll do the on the road horror on the road.
Horror on the road.
I wasn't expecting you to do it, but I wasn't. But you still fucking got me. You still got me, so I don't know. But thank you so much for joining us, and a special episode, our first travel episode. We were very safe.
Horror on the road.
His eyes never left the road.
Oh, they did.
And we'll be home one day. One day, it's a long journey that we have to take back. So, you guys, stay tuned to the horror.
Also, I may or may not be sleeping when I have the glasses on.